everyone, and welcome to Perimenopausal Athletes and Beyond, a masterclass series which we're bringing together experts in mindset, nutrition, training, and recovery. And today we have an incredible voice and an incredible woman. We have here joining me, Susan Niebergall. Is that how you say your last name?
Niebergall. Close.
Niebergall.
Yeah.
And Susan is, she was a founder of Susan Niebergall's Fitness. She's the co-coach in the Syatt Fitness Inner Circle. And so she does online strength coaching, and she really is the essence of what she does is sharing and bringing her passion to changing people's lives, getting them as strong as possible, and also losing that stubborn fat that they thought they never could lose. So we have quite a wonderful time here that we're going to have together. But we're going to start by first saying hello. Welcome, Susan.
Thank you for having me. This is phenomenal. I'm so excited to be here.
Well, when we first connected, it was really, it was absolutely just joining together in our passions. And where I want to start is really with your story. And you are now 61 years of age, and you're post-menopause. Mm-hmm. And the occasional symptom.
Oh yeah, every once in a while.
Right. And still
so often.
You think you're through it and you're not.
Yeah.
So just
nothing horrific, but
once in a while a night sweat or something comes up. Yep. So just as a reminder to all those post-menopausal females that it does continue on beyond that 1 year mark sometimes. And although it is less, it is sometimes can rear its ugly head in many ways. So what we want to do, we want to look at the story of how you got to where you are and being such a motivational force and being strong at this age and what you want to bring and what you're bringing to females. So take us back to wherever that you need to go back to set the stage up to say things have got to be different. Share us with who you were, what you were doing, where your mindset was at, maybe even what you were eating. Like, I want to know it all. And then up to now and why you are exactly where you are.
Sure. Well, I'm coming to the fitness industry from the education world. I was a teacher and a school counselor for 33 years. So if we kind of rewind the clock, I was, 20, 30, 40 years even, I was that person that went to the gym, went to the classes. Back then they were called aerobics classes, and they were big classes. We were on the step sometimes. We had little weights at the end, and there was a lot of camaraderie there, which is what brought me back into the gym. So my gym experience goes back really far. And actually, even before that, jazzercise. I don't know if anybody out there remembers that. I don't even know if it still exists, but
it does. It does. She loves it. It's still happening. It's awesome.
It wasn't my jam at all, but I did do it. But again, it was the group part, being around people and being in the environment. That's how I was introduced to fitness and going to the gym or whatever. And over the years, I would hire different personal trainers at the different gyms I belonged to and started learning how to strength train. And that's where the love of lifting first came into play. But during this whole time, this span of 30, 40 years, I never had my nutrition in really dialed in like I do now. And I think part of it was people in my generation, we grew up with lots of different rules than there are right now, different beliefs, and things were just, carbs I went through the carbs are bad. Well, they're kind of still bad with a lot of people, but that was a phase. Fat, it's going to make you fat. That's a phase. That was a phase. We had every diet known to mankind come and go through. I think we did the little appetite suppressant pills. I did all of those kinds of things. Right. I mean, I made every mistake in the book because I thought that's what you were supposed to do, and I was also that person that never weighed herself because I was terrified to step on a scale. Okay. And that I think is very common with people. I didn't understand the scale. I mean, we grew up with, it was either the scale went up and that's bad, or the scale went down and that's good. And how many times have we all sat in the waiting room of the doctor's office waiting to go in, knowing the first thing we have to do is step on that scale? And we used to have to step on the ones with that stupid bar, the big bar that they'd move, the big chunk of weight. And then they moved the little bar and they kept moving it and moving it. And you're screaming on the inside, stop, you know?
Oh, the anxiety.
Oh my God. I hated that thing. And that is why I never wanted to get a scale. But what I didn't realize is I was just creating more anxiety for that moment every time I went to the doctors, you know, so we all had to live through that.
Like it meant something.
Yeah. You know, it was, you know, and it's still not great. I'll tell you that it's still not great. That feeling can still pop up every time I step on my scale here at home. But there's a big difference now because I understand the scale. I understand why it might be up as opposed to yesterday. And I've learned all this, but I didn't learn most of this until I was in my 50s. And I think the problem I was having is I was getting into training and I had lots of great training experiences, but no one ever touched on nutrition with me, really. And so I didn't understand anything other than the fad diets that were out there. And then well, you just need to eat healthy. You know, I eat clean, quote, and healthy. You know, I thought, well, why do I have to pay attention to how much I'm eating? For God's sakes, it's healthy, it's clean, it's all good, right? You know, I didn't know. So that was the big missing piece, really, until my mid 50s when I hired Jordan Syatt to be my online coach. And, you know, at that point in my life, I had an, kind of an epiphany, and we can talk about that later, about how my head started to kind of turn around and start to understand things. But when I hired Jordan to be my coach, I didn't really work with him with nutrition. I could have, but I kind of thought, okay, I got this now. I'm good. I got this. I just want to lift heavy and be a power lifter or something.
Yeah.
And so he and I worked together, but I paid attention to everything he wrote, everything he put out. I joined his inner circle, which I'm now one of the coaches of, and learned a lot and put it into practice. So between surrounding myself with the right people and actually putting in some work on my end and being honest about what I was and was not doing, that's when things started to change. And the cool thing is I was in my 50s. I wasn't 20 or 30. I was in my 50s. And I'm no one special here. I don't have great genetics. I get that all the time. You must have great genetics. No, I really don't. And I know people talk about having to have great genetics for muscle building because I'm able to build muscle. I don't know where those genetics are coming from then, if I have those, because none of my immediate family has anything like that. Yeah. So I think people use that when they're not successful. Oh, this is why, you know, it's not going to work for me because bad genetics, or, you know, I'm too old or whatever. Yeah. But I'm here to tell everybody, man, it's never too late to do any of this. You just have to, I think a bunch of things have to be in place. You need to surround yourself with the right people, the right programming. You need to put in consistent effort and hard work. It is not easier as we get older. That is a fact. Yeah. You know, everything's harder as we get older. Yeah. I mean, getting out of bed is harder when we're old, you know? And so this does not get any easier, but it's doable. You just have to be ready to be patient, to be consistent, and change 30 years of thinking, you know, and that's the hardest piece, I think.
That is the hardest piece. So I want to go there in a minute, but I first want to just hear a little bit about, because I know this is important to a lot of athletes that are coming into, okay, so now I know it's not too late. And I'm ready to take something on. How did you progress into, like, did you just say, okay, I'm going to go lift heavy? And what did that actually look like to you? Like, so give us an idea of the strength that you took on. And was it, we're going to talk about fears in a minute, but I want to say, like, focus on, did you have a fear of, because that scale was, you know, moving up, you know, like, am I going to gain weight? Did you have a fear of actually gaining weight, gaining muscle mass? How did that feel? Was that any of your concern, or is that concerns that you see?
You know, that's a concern I see now with people. For me back then, I didn't know anything about that. I didn't know anything about that. Yeah, I was naive, completely naive. And I started by doing the classes, like I said, and I would just watch over off to the side where the free weight section was and watch people working out there watch the trainers working with people. I'm like,
Yeah.
I want to try that. I mean, I think that might be kind of fun. It was just
Okay.
kind of on a whim that I signed up with this guy, and he's the one that started it. And, you know, it was very basic stuff for me back then, but I really enjoyed it. And I loved getting stronger. And I loved people telling me that I was really getting strong. You know, that part was invigorating. And I really feel like it instills a confidence in you that, and if you don't know, people that haven't lifted before or lifted super heavy weight or anything like that, until you do that super heavy for you, whatever that is, you will know the feeling I'm talking about as soon as you do it. It is some kind of confidence about you being able to lift some heavy weight, whether it's over your head or off the floor or whatever it is, that just bleeds over into every aspect of your life. I mean, and it is true. And especially as you get older, and it can be scary though. I mean, I was a little nervous going over there to that section, and I probably wouldn't have wandered over there on my own. I'm glad I had somebody there. I had an appointment. I had to show up. You know, I was there. Someone was teaching me. And as a teacher, I understood that relationship too. So that made a huge difference for me from a fear perspective. And I know a lot of people are afraid to go to the gym now.
Yeah.
And most of the time it's because they don't know what to do. You know, they don't want to look stupid. They feel like everyone's looking at them. And, you know, it's all these things that we create in our head that really is not happening. No one's looking at us. We think they are, but trust me, no one is. But the biggest thing is we don't know what to do. And I think that is a driving force with people now. I also feel like I have a lot of people who are still worried about, I don't want to get too bulky, you know, and I think as I'm saying this, when I was younger, I thought lifting heavy at first was going to mean I was going to look like this 300-pound person lifting, you know, however many pounds off the floor. I thought that's what it was. I didn't understand the role nutrition plays with all of that too, you know? And so my goal now is to get women over that fear, you know, and no, you won't get bulky like the Hulk. I mean, guys would love to get bulky like the Hulk, and they can't even do it. You know, they work so hard. Most guys can't do it, and they have the testosterone to do it. We don't. I think people assume that you're just going to balloon up into this big, huge person when you start lifting. And that's just not how it works. You know, you keep your diet in check, you lift heavy weight, you're going to get sculpted. You're going to get that lean, if toned, we can use that word, that a lot of people like to use that word, defined look, the heavier you lift. And that's another myth, I guess. I think we all grew up thinking, give me the little dumbbells and I'll do, you know, 500 bicep curls with little 2-pound dumbbells. That's not going to do you anything, you know? And I think we all bought into that for years and years and years. So lots of confusion in our brains, you know, legitimately so on what works. I grew up thinking this, I grew up thinking that, you know, and now we're here. People are telling us, no, you're not going to get bulky, you know, and it's confusing. So I can relate to everybody with that because I was confused too. I didn't quite understand it, but I'll tell you this, once I did get over the fear, the nervousness of working with a trainer and got some experience, everything changed. I mean, I became a gym rat. You know, I was that person that always wanted to go to the gym and lift, you know, and
so word of caution, you may become a gym rat. Become that person.
You know, and I worked with a bunch of trainers over the years, and, you know, each one of them taught me something along the way, you know, and I'm grateful to each and every one of them. And I feel like that's also a really good way to get your feet in the door. Hire somebody to work with you.
Yeah.
Get over that wall, you know, that's holding you back, because once you do that and you start getting more confident and you feel more comfortable, you're going to sit there and go, why did I wait so long? You know?
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So what I want to do is you've said a lot of incredible things, and I want to just come back to one point that you made to make it really real. And just to like bring us into that space. And that is, you mentioned that of the confidence that you'll feel. And I was having an amazing conversation with one of my athletes, and when you, it was the conversation was, Tennille, I just want to feel good in my body. I want to feel like if my, she's incidentally, she's a teacher as well. And I just want to be able to get up and go, like do my training. That's for me. But when I want to have the energy to get up and go, to run after something and not feel that fatigue. And, I'm very much into trying to get really specific and be like, okay, so how do we know we're getting successful? How do we know what success is? And it was really hard for both of us. And you just kind of touched on it as well. And you said, you'll know it when you feel it. That confidence that comes from just being able to lift your body, to be able to jump up, to be able to do something. And I just wanted to hear if you had anything more just to bring that possibility to all these listeners of, imagine this idea of strength, fitness, bounce, vitality, because you'll feel it and it's hard to describe.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think there are words to do it justice, but this is where it hit home for me. I mentioned I was an educator for 33 years. I retired about 6 years ago now. And that's crazy, 6 years ago. And when I thought of retirement as a school counselor, I thought, okay, I've put in 33 years. That's a long time. I am going to sleep in. I'm going to watch the morning TV shows, drink coffee. I'm going to do all this stuff because that's retirement, riding off into the sunset kind of thing, right? Mm. That's not what happened with me at all. I started a business after I retired. And it's like, wow. I look back on that too and think, I don't even know how I would have done that if I did not have strength training as part of what I was doing then. There's no way. There's no way. That confidence I got from getting better with deadlifting, getting better with squatting, being able to do push-ups, getting my first chin up, which led to more chin-ups, which led to a 45-pound weighted chin-up. I mean,
goodness,
that's
phenomenal.
But doing all of those things, being able to do those things gives you energy. And that energy allowed me to start a business, that energy and confidence too, because I don't know anything about business. Let me just put this right out there. I'm not a business coach. Okay. I have learned a whole lot about starting a fitness business to help people. And I would never, ever have thought about doing that, and that's where it kind of hit me. It's like, oh my God, look what I'm doing. Yeah. I am not retired. I'm working harder now than I did then. I mean, I really am. But the difference is I'm passionate about this. Not that I wasn't, I was passionate about being an educator and being in the school, but when you get to year 33, the passion, it's just not the same as it was year 1 and 2. You know what I mean? 33 years is a long time for anything. But now I don't need to earn a living doing this. I've already had my living. I have a retirement plan, all of this. Yeah. I'm doing this only because I love it. And there's a lot of time and energy. And there was a lot of fear. Make no mistake.
Yeah.
Business and taxes and LLC and all these things that make me sick to my stomach because I don't understand them. It's not my language.
Yeah.
I would never have had the guts to even set forth with doing this if it hadn't been for building confidence and strength in other areas of my life, without a doubt.
That's really powerful. So if you're listening and you have an idea of something that is beyond what we think of, in the realm of what we're talking about here is mindset, nutrition, training, and recovery. It's not just about that. It is about every aspect of your life. And it makes my heart burst. So now we're going to come back into this idea of different fears and anxiety, worries, avoidance, these emotions. And I had mentioned in just before coming on, that's really important from the work of Brené Brown, so many others, that it becomes, Dr. Susan David is another one, becomes really important that we understand what we're trying to address so that we can hit it head on. So you have actually brought forward all of these emotions. So you talked about the worry about getting bulky. You talked about fear of, injury, the acute. So fear is an acute, negative, short lasting, puts you on high alert. And So, and then anxiety is more of the chronic. This is like, I'm worried about what's going to happen, and that things that might happen. It's all positioned into the future, and avoidance is part of what we do in anxiety. We avoid, we don't show up, we zigzag around, we go away from the thing that is consuming us. And yet we need to actually head right into it. And so one of the things we wanted to bring forward into this talk is talking about injury and the things that slow us down, particularly in perimenopause, in the post-menopause, because there's a lot of things that are happening within our bodies that make avoidance really real, right? And makes worry just part of a modus operandi.
That's
right?
just kind of right. Yeah. Our worry meter goes up a lot.
Worry meter goes up a lot. So what I'd like to ask you is, what are the things, let's go right there. What are the things that you see in addition to the idea of being bulky, that for some reason, let's go beyond that. Let's get to the other pieces that you see, so other females can be like, oh yeah, that's me. That is a worry. Okay. And then let's address how you get and support your athletes to get around that.
Yeah. I mean, I think one thing I think I see in general is just we're people in my age bracket, we are set in our ways in a way from years and years and years of believing one set of rules. And now we're being told maybe it's something else. And the fear of changing that, sometimes we lock in our head, I think, to the phrase, better the devil, and so we get into this cycle of we do the same thing over and over and over. And we think the next time it's going to work. It's going to work this time, but it's the same thing. We've changed nothing. That has not worked in the past. It's not working now, and it's not going to work in the future. But we don't change anything because we're scared. It is change is really scary. I mean, you go from thinking all I have to do is eat healthy to now people are saying it's good to track your calories or track your protein, make sure you get adequate protein. And it's like, protein, wait a minute, what? There's all these things, and it gets overwhelming. And when something gets overwhelming like that you get paralyzed. You don't do anything. And then you keep spinning that same wheel,
Right.
And I was that person. I did the same thing over and over and over again, thinking, okay, this time it's going to work, and it never did. And I think someone said, who said that that's the definition of insanity, right? When you do the same thing and you think it's going to change, and it doesn't. And I think that is a legitimate fear for a lot of people. And it was including myself in that. Just making a big change in how you eat. I mean, think about this. People, when I talk to people about they're struggling to lose weight, they always talk about their workouts. They do this and they give me the laundry list, and then the laundry list of all the things you're going to add because they don't think the other laundry list was long enough. Right.
Right.
But they haven't talked about the one thing that's going to change their weight loss. And that is their nutrition. They don't even talk about that because they don't want to. And the reason is
that's so hard.
It's so hard to deal with that. It's so hard to change that. Workouts, you can add a class, you can do this, that's a little bit easier. The problem is nutrition's driving our weight loss car, and so that means nutrition's responsible for that. And so there's a fear there. There's a fear of having to deal with that. And for me, that fear was having to face myself and be honest with myself and all the things that I thought I was doing right. And now come to Jesus meeting with Susan and just like, you know what? No, you haven't been doing things right, but you can change it. And it's okay. It's not too late to change. And I think fear just of change and I use nutrition only because that is the hardest one to change. And people dig their heels in with that. And it's tough.
Yeah. And it's really tough because it's a whole, nutrition is our culture too. Like it's a familial. So what we do in our family, how our whole systems of our days are set up impact how we do nutrition. And one of the biggest challenges, that I find working with my athletes is creating the space to prioritize the change.
Yeah.
Because when you start something, darn, is it hard? Like,
Yeah.
because we don't know how to do it. We're not skillful. So
Yeah.
when you have sometimes nutrition experts say, well, and I really, this frustrates me when we say, well, you need to just do this. Well, that just is coming from 20 years, 30 years of experience of knowing how to chop vegetables quickly. Or like, we forget that these are all skills that we can progress to learning.
That's
And
such
when
a
we,
great point.
yeah, like, and so building out that menu, building out the awareness, it's never just. I want to encourage people to really understand that, like exactly what you're saying, Susan. It's a
Yeah.
big deal.
It's a big deal. And moving forward with the nutrition piece, what I usually have people do when they are either their heels are dug in or they're scared or they don't know how to do a lot of things is literally I tell them, get out a pad of paper and a pen. I'm totally old school with this. Don't get out your little computer and type. Pad of paper and pen. And if you want to start tracking your nutrition in some way, this is accessible to everybody. Literally keep it in the kitchen. And every time you put something in your mouth, write it on the piece of paper. That's it. You don't have to measure. You don't have to track. You don't have to do anything but write it. If you had a handful of almonds, put that down. If you had a latte from Starbucks, put that down. If you had, a burger and fries, put that down. Whatever it is, just so you start to see what you consume in a day, because we all completely underestimate that. We don't think we're eating as much as we are. None of us. I mean, every one of us underestimate. And this is such a simple exercise, but it's so effective for building that initial confidence. Because what happens is when people start seeing all of this, they start making changes based on this list. They don't take that extra handful of something because they're going to have to write it down. They can make these small little changes right out of the gate and start to see some results happening. They're going to feel better. Maybe they're going to see a change on the scale. I don't know. They're going to start seeing some results, and that gets the wheel going to being open to learn something new, when they're more ready to take something else on.
So I want to, I do have to say one thing to this point, because I see it in a lot of endurance athletes that will be listening to this. In the for endurance athletes, is that it's actually that they're not eating enough.
Yeah.
Sure. And so we have a real problem, and it's rampant as well among athletes. So in addition to, are you fueling your body with the foods that you want? Are you getting enough to have, and that it always still comes back down to the same starting point, and that's bringing awareness, which is what you're saying.
Yeah. I mean, and that list can be used for that too, for an endurance athlete. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Look at that and say, that's all.
That's all.
If you're an endurance athlete, you're coming at it from a different side for sure. From a weight loss perspective, you're coming to it from another side. But this, as you said, it's just an awareness exercise more than it is anything else. Yeah. And then apply however you need to apply it,
Yeah.
But I like it because it's not threatening to anyone. It's easy to do. You don't need any special knowledge. You can just track a little bit yourself and really get the ball rolling.
Yeah. So let's talk about one final point that I really want to discuss with you is this idea that injury, because a lot of one of the worries is that I'm going to get injured, or I am injured, and therefore I'm going to avoid things, or I can't start now, or I need to wait for some more time, or it's the delay. It's that avoidance piece, right? That's why are you avoiding what it is what do you have to, like to your say, come to Jesus, Susan, like moment, right?
Yeah.
And tell us how you have managed, or how you support your athletes and manage around, okay, something's not working quite the way you want it, but let's keep moving.
Yeah. I mean, I'm living it right now.
Okay.
I have a history of a shoulder issue, which I'm recovering from as we speak. And I currently have a bone spur in my hip and arthritis in my hip. And the one thing I want to stress here is that I've never missed a day of training, not through a rotator cuff. My shoulder originally was a rotator cuff injury. And I never missed a single day of training. And I have so many people that tell me, I hurt my shoulder. I can't work out for 2 weeks. I'm like, why? first of all, you have legs too. You can work out other body parts, but here's the thing. And injuries is such, it wreaks havoc on our mindset as much as it does anything else.
Absolutely.
Like we all of a sudden, all we focus on is what we can't do anymore. We can't lift, we can't run, we can't, whatever the injury is, right? And then our mindset starts playing games. And then we're just like, screw this. I just can't, then hands go up in the air and we're done. When research shows too, that when you're injured, the last thing you want to do is to stop. The very last thing you want to do is to stop moving because, and my doc explained this to me pertaining to my shoulder in particular. He goes, your bicep tendon is the issue right now. If you were to not do anything with upper body to let it rest, quote unquote, what you've done is you've now created a stiff joint because you haven't moved your joint enough in addition to having to work the injury itself. And I think that's a really good point to remember. It doesn't mean that you need to push through pain. That is a no-no. You work around pain. And the way you do that is you find exercises that you can access without pain. And sometimes that means if you're a gym goer, you go to the gym and you take your program for a test drive. And maybe the dumbbell row feels great, but the overhead press does not. Okay, cool. So now we know we can do the row, but we can't do the overhead press. Let's try some other shoulder exercises to see if I could manage maybe a different variation or something like that. Change how you hold the dumbbells. Certain ways are easier on the shoulders than others. There's ways to adjust, but it takes you going in and figuring that out. And so what you're doing is you're figuring out what you can do. And now that's your focus. So we've taken the focus off of what I can't do anymore. And then we'll drown in our sorrow over here. Oh no, I'm going to, lose my strength, or I'm going to lose my running time, or I'm going to gain weight now, whatever. And now we're focused on, okay, this is what I can do. I'm going to get strong with these exercises right here. And your training may look different, but who cares? That part doesn't matter. What matters is that your head's in the game, that you keep your training schedule, whatever your schedule is, you can keep it now. And you're going to do what you can do at that time. And what you may find with an injury is that 1 week you can do one variation, and maybe the next week it's not feeling great. You do another variation. It's the need to be flexible and to understand that the goal is to keep your training going. And if it looks different, so what? It doesn't matter. You're going to get stronger. You're not going to lose progress. You're going to maintain or even progress even farther. And I think that's a real important message for people, because I think they make a big mistake. And I believe that also stems from years ago. You hurt yourself, you take 2 weeks, 3 weeks off, and it's just not the stuff that doctors do. I mean, when you have hip replacement, you're up walking later that day. That's why. That is why. And that's why a lot of doctors don't recommend ice all the time, because it's not always about ice.
Right.
Ice stiffens you up a little bit. Heat kind of gets the blood flowing a little bit more.
Blood going,
So I think knowing that you can still train, that you can still make progress in whatever you're doing, and that you get your mindset out of I can't and get it back into I can. Now you feel productive. Now you feel like you're moving forward. And that's the biggest difference maker.
It is. I love it that, really what you're really sharing with us is have your commitment be to movement, and the movement is, done by strength, but it can also be done by many ways of doing strength. It can be movement of walking instead of running. It can, the plan, you can't fail a really good plan, because the plan can't fail you. Let's not get rigid in the idea of movement. Yeah. Because movement is the life. Yeah. There is no rigidity. There's only flow. Right. Right. So beautiful.
And just to give everyone some perspective, when my hip was at its absolute worst, and it was a leg day for me, there was very little I could even do. Right. And that's very unusual for me. But what I ended up figuring out is I could hop on a spin bike and pedal with minimal resistance. My hip actually loved that. I was getting blood flowing. That's all positive. And that And I sat on the bike and I said, well, I can grab a band. I'm going to do some band pull aparts or something. So me on a bike doing band pull aparts was leg day. I mean, Perfect. It was leg day for about a week. Yeah. Was it like doing squats and deadlifts? Well, no, of course not. But it was still me moving, just like you said.
It's so perfect. Well, what a great conversation. I've appreciated this so much. So I have one final question. It's one that I'm asking everyone. And that is there one moment, like just one moment that you have that you just said, I've got to start this business. I've got to get my voice out. I've got to do something for female athletes to understand something about I understand something now about myself. I want every single one of these women to know this too.
Well, it's interesting because my moment happened. I was already a fitness professional, but I wasn't as focused on middle-aged women and stuff as I am now. But this moment is what took me further, right to here. And I was in my bathroom one day looking down at my belly. And I'm like, what the hell's happened to me? It appeared overnight. I mean, it didn't, but it felt like it. We also, right? Yeah. I was in tears. I was like, I'm a fitness professional. How have I let myself do this? And then I started thinking about it. And I'm like, oh, wait a minute. It's menopause. Oh, of course. That's the reason. And I suddenly perked up and I thought, oh man, my metabolism has probably crashed now. I get it. It all made sense in my head. Right. So I thought, I'm just going to go to the doctor. We're going to run the blood test. I'm going to get my medication. My metabolism is going to come going right back up to where it should be. And then bye belly, And right. So
perfect. In a pill, it's going to come. It's going to happen.
Right? It's the pill. And so, and there I was in that waiting room having to step on that stupid scale again too, for that appointment. And I go back, got the blood work done, met up with my doctor, and she came back to me and she said, Susan, your metabolism is fine. There's nothing wrong with it. You don't need any medication. And my heart just sank. And I was devastated. I started to cry. She goes, you're just eating too much. And wow, I'm like, was that ever hard to hear? And I left there thinking she doesn't know what she's talking about. I wasn't ready to hear that, but I let it sink in because I had a choice at that moment. I really had a choice to just keep that wall up and ignore what my doctor was saying. I couldn't dispute the blood work. I ran out of excuses. I had run out. And I had to finally turn around and face myself and say, no, you haven't done what needs to be done. You thought you've been doing it. And, we can go down to all the reasons why, whatever, but I thought I was legitimately, I thought I was, but I wasn't. And I had to face that music. And that is so devastatingly hard to do, to look at yourself and say, you have not done this correctly, and once I let that sink in and I really accepted it, everything changed. That was it. And when I started seeing changes in me at 55, I'm like, I need to help people, because if I can do this, I know anyone can do this. And it's my mission from that moment on that I want to make sure everyone knows you can do it. You don't have to be special to do this. You don't have genetics against you, blah, blah, you can do this. And then it just built from there.
Oh, what a powerful story. Yeah. And it can look different. And this story can resonate in so many different ways of, this worry, the fear, then the hard hammer that comes down, and the acceptance. And then you built awareness. What do I need to do? And that's like to go back into our interview. And that's exactly what you have just talked a little bit about. So
and that's why I wrote my book. I wrote a book, Fit at Any Age. It's never too late. And it's a fitness memoir, which basically outlines all the mistakes I made. And the feedback I get from everybody is, this could have been me. Because we all did it. All of us did it back in the 80s and 90s. We all did these same kinds of things. So we're not alone. Right. And no one's alone. I did all of them, and I go into detail how I turned it all around. And I talk about that moment too.
Yeah. So as a free gift, you are offering a 1 month in the inner circle, which is
Yes.
really generous. So can you just give our listeners just a really brief overview of what that looks like so they can, click on the link and access it if that's what they're interested in?
Sure. Yeah. So the Inner Circle is a group coaching model that Jordan Syatt and I do together. We provide structured strength training program. We have programming for whether you're at home with minimal equipment or at a gym. Doesn't matter. We've got it covered either way. We give you nutrition guidelines for whether you want to lose weight or you want to maintain or you want to build muscle. And then we have some specialty programs for you after you get acclimated, some things if you want to improve a certain lift, things like that. We have a community with a strong contingent in from the 30s on up. So you will never feel like you're alone. That's probably the best part about what we do is that community, helping each other and supporting each other. And we've got a whole members portal full of content and information, video courses, and an app to make things easy for the people that love that kind of thing. And we would love to have everyone come and hang out with us for a while.
Oh, that sounds wonderful. Thank you so much for that. Because I know that if this resonated, if the things that Susan has said, really resonated with you, then the community that I can just feel the community and the love that kind of goes out to all the members of it. So I encourage you to check it out. So anything else that you want to share? Thank you for letting us know about your book. That's fantastic. Is it on Amazon? Can they reach it?
It's on Amazon. Yeah.
Perfect. And all the links are on your webpage. So thank you so very much for coming and joining us in this series. And we will continue the conversation.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been great to be here.
Fantastic. Bye.